When someone disappears for months, most people try to protect themselves with comforting stories. They say, maybe she was busy, maybe she was confused, maybe life got overwhelming, maybe she needed space. But deep down, you already know something important. Silence at that level is not an accident. It is a decision. It may not be spoken directly, it may not be explained clearly, but it is chosen behavior. And powerful growth begins the moment you stop romanticizing silence and start understanding it. People don't accidentally ignore what they value. Think about your own life. When something truly matters to you, you respond. You show up, you check in. Even when you're tired, even when you're stressed, even when life is chaotic, you still send the message, make the call, give the sign. Effort always finds a way when importance is real. So when months pass with nothing but absence, that gap is not confusion, it is clarity expressed quietly. The mistake many make is trying to decode silence like it's a puzzle to solve. They replay old conversations, search for hidden meanings, ask friends for interpretations, scroll through memories like detectives. But silence is the simplest message there is. It says, this is no longer where my energy lives. And while that truth may sting, it is also freeing because it removes illusion. You don't have to chase mixed signals when there are no signals at all. Understand this clearly. Maturity is measured by how quickly you accept behavioral truth over verbal comfort. Words can lie, promises can bend, emotions can fluctuate, but patterns of action rarely deceive. Disappearance is an action. Prolonged absence is a pattern, and patterns speak with brutal honesty. Now here is where your power is tested. Your ego will want to chase closure. Your emotions will want reassurance. Your attachment will want to reopen communication at any cost. But strength is choosing interpretation over pursuit. Strength is saying, I see the message, and I respect myself enough not to beg for a different one. Because the moment you start chasing someone who chose distance, you shift the balance of value. You place them in the position of chooser and yourself in the position of seeker. That is not connection, that is imbalance. Real connection is mutual gravity, not one-sided pursuit. Also remember, someone who truly wants to stay connected does not risk months of silence. They clarify. They communicate. They create understanding. They don't vanish and hope you'll tolerate emotional uncertainty. Disappearing without explanation is not emotional complexity. It is emotional avoidance, and you are not required to reward avoidance with loyalty. Instead of asking why she disappeared, ask a better question. What does my response to this teach about my self-respect? Because this moment is less about her character and more about your standards. You are being given a chance to practice emotional discipline, boundary awareness, and identity strength. Do not turn silence into a mystery when it is actually a mirror. It reflects where you stood in her priorities, and now it reveals where you must stand in your own. Accept the message, keep your dignity, and move forward without chasing echoes. Most people think someone disappears suddenly, but the truth is, emotional disappearance always happens in stages. Long before the physical silence, long before the unread messages and the empty months, there was already a quiet shift happening beneath the surface. Energy changed first, tone changed first, presence changed first, but because it didn't look dramatic, you ignored it. Because it didn't sound like a breakup, you explained it away. That is how emotional withdrawal hides not as a storm, but as a slow fading of warmth. At the beginning, connection feels effortless, conversations flow, curiosity is mutual, attention is natural. But when emotional investment starts dropping, the first sign is not distance, it's reduction, shorter replies. Delayed responses, less emotional depth, fewer questions about you, less excitement in shared moments. The structure of communication remains, but the spirit inside it weakens. Many people miss this stage because technically, contact still exists. But emotionally, the center has already started collapsing. You must learn to read emotional temperature, not just communication frequency. Someone can text you daily and still be emotionally gone. Someone can talk to you regularly and still be mentally checked out. Presence is not measured by message count, it is measured by emotional engagement. When engagement fades, the connection is already under strain. Another early sign is when effort becomes reactive instead of proactive. Before, she reached out because she wanted to. Later, she responds only because you reached out first. Before, she shared things freely. Later, you have to pull information with questions. Before, she made space for you. Later, you are trying to fit into whatever space is left. These are not random mood changes, they are signals of emotional reprioritization. But attachment makes people negotiate with reality. You tell yourself she's stressed, she's busy, she's overwhelmed. And sometimes that is true temporarily, but temporary stress does not erase emotional consistency for months. When reduced effort becomes the new normal, you are not seeing a phase, you are seeing a shift. Emotional withdrawal also shows up in conflict behavior. When someone is invested, they try to resolve tension. When someone is detaching, they avoid depth. Discussions become surface level. Serious conversations get postponed or minimized. Disagreements are brushed aside instead of worked through. It's not peace, it's disengagement wearing a calm mask. The reason this stage matters is because it gives you information early, if you are willing to see it. Strong individuals don't panic at the first sign of reduced energy, but they do observe patterns. They don't chase harder, they step back and measure reciprocity. They don't beg for reassurance, they watch for consistency. Awareness is not insecurity. Awareness is emotional intelligence. By the time months of disappearance happen, the emotional exit was already completed internally. The physical silence is just the visible confirmation of an invisible decision made earlier. That's why begging at the end rarely works, because the detachment didn't begin at the end. This is not about blaming her, it's about training your perception. When you learn to recognize emotional drift early, you stop being shocked by outcomes. You stop being blindsided by silence. You stop calling predictable patterns unexpected endings. See the small signs. Respect the gradual change. Adjust your investment accordingly, because emotional distance always whispers before physical absence speaks. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: when she disappears for months, it's usually not because she forgot you. It's because she reprioritized you. Forgetting is accidental. Reprioritizing is intentional. People forget appointments, dates, and small tasks. They do not forget people who emotionally matter to them. When someone holds a meaningful place in your life, they stay mentally present even during busy seasons. You may not talk every day, but the connection doesn't fall off the map. So when long silence happens, the painful truth is not memory loss, it is priority shift. Priority is revealed by behavior, not promises. Many people will say you matter, I care, you're important to me. But importance is proven through allocation. Allocation of time, attention, emotional energy, and consistency. Whatever receives these resources rises in priority. Whatever does not falls. It's that simple and that uncomfortable. You must understand, priority is not about worth as a human being. It is about current emotional investment. Someone can recognize your value and still not choose you as their focus. That's why chasing validation after being deprioritized is dangerous. It confuses your worth with their attention. Their shift does not reduce your value, but your reaction can reduce your self-respect if you're not careful. When you sense you've been moved down the priority ladder, your instinct may be to climb back up through effort. More messages, more availability, more emotional giving, but increased output rarely restores lost priority. it often confirms imbalance. The more you overextend to someone who has stepped back, the more you train them to value you less, not more. Human psychology respects scarcity and steadiness more than emotional overexposure. Strong emotional posture means recognizing reprioritization quickly and adjusting your behavior with dignity. You don't protest your way back into someone's focus. You don't argue your way into being valued. You don't convince someone to feel what they no longer feel. Instead, you shift your energy inward and upward toward your growth, your mission, your discipline, your self-development. There is also a deeper layer here. Sometimes reprioritization happens because familiarity replaced mystery. Availability replaced challenge. Predictability replaced excitement. This is not about playing games, it is about maintaining a full, purpose-driven life. When your world becomes centered entirely around one person, you unintentionally lower your perceived value. Attraction grows toward those who have direction, structure, and momentum, not those who orbit emotionally around someone else. Do not respond to being deprioritized by trying to become more convenient. Respond by becoming more complete. Build routines, improve your skills, strengthen your body and mind, expand your goals. When your life becomes fuller, your emotional dependence becomes smaller, and that alone restores balance inside you. And here is the empowering truth hidden inside the pain. Once you accept that you were reprioritized, you stop living in confusion. Clarity replaces anxiety. You stop checking your phone every hour. You stop decoding last messages. You stop negotiating with silence. Acceptance is not weakness. It is emotional leadership over your own mind. Because when you accept your new position in someone else's priorities, you finally start upgrading your position in your own. When someone disappears for months, many people are afraid to consider one uncomfortable possibility. Her emotional attention may be invested somewhere else. Not always in another relationship, not always in betrayal, but often in another direction. New connections, new priorities, new emotional experiences, new environments. Attention is a limited resource. Where it goes consistently, attachment grows. Where it is withdrawn, connection weakens. This is not cruelty, this is human nature. Most disappearances are not empty space, they are replaced space. Time and emotional energy rarely sit unused. They get redirected. And instead of obsessing over where exactly that energy went, the stronger move is to understand what the redirection itself means. It means you are no longer the primary emotional focus, that is the signal. The details are less important than the pattern. People often torture themselves trying to investigate, checking social media, asking mutual friends, reading into online activity, building stories in their head. But investigation creates emotional dependence. It keeps your attention locked on her choices instead of your growth. Even if you discovered the full truth, it would not restore dignity, it would only satisfy curiosity. And curiosity is not healing. Emotional strength is choosing not to chase information that does not change your path forward. Whether she invested emotionally in someone else, in a new social circle, in her career, or in a different life direction, the outcome for you is the same. She stepped away and stayed away. That is the actionable truth. Here is where many lose their center. They take redirection personally and turn it into self-rejection. They say, I wasn't enough, I lost, I was replaced, but attention shift is not always a value judgment. Compatibility and change, speed and RECOG, and ITION, sometimes timing, sometimes emotional readiness, sometimes internal confusion on her side. You do not collapse your identity because someone changed direction, but you must also resist denial. Pretending nothing changed keeps you emotionally stuck. Accepting that her focus moved elsewhere in some form allows you to reclaim your own focus with clarity. Denial keeps hope alive artificially. Acceptance creates momentum. There is another important truth here. Trying to compete with an unknown rival, real or imagined, is a losing strategy. You cannot outcompete someone you cannot see. You cannot outperform a story you do not fully know, and you should not shape your identity around comparison anyway. The only productive competition is between your current self and your higher self. Instead of asking, who has her attention now, ask, where should my attention go now? That question gives your power back immediately, because your attention is your life force. Wherever you place it, consistently becomes your future. Place it on your discipline, your health, your financial growth, your communication skills, your emotional control. Your purpose, ironically, the moment you stop monitoring her emotional world, is the moment your own emotional stability returns. Detachment is not coldness, it is self-protection with awareness. You are not punishing her by refocusing on yourself, you are strengthening you. And remember this clearly, people are drawn back not by those who waited emotionally frozen, but by those who evolved while they were gone. Shift your focus from her redirection to your elevation and keep moving forward. When someone has been silent for months and you feel the urge to chase, to reach out repeatedly, to demand answers, to restart the conversation at any cost, it feels emotional, honest, even brave. But you must understand something most people learn too late. Chasing after long silence lowers your position, not because caring is weak, but because unreciprocated pursuit destroys balance. Connection only works when interest travels in both directions. When only one side is moving forward, it stops being connection and starts becoming emotional negotiation. Months of silence is not a small pause. It is a major behavioral statement. It means distance was tolerated. It means absence was comfortable. It means communication with you was not seen as necessary during that time. If you respond to that level of silence by rushing forward with urgency, emotion, and need, you unintentionally reward the very behavior that hurt you. You teach the other person that they can disappear without consequence and return to full access whenever they want. Self-respect is not about pretending you don't care. It is about controlling how you express that care. There is a difference between one calm, grounded shout and repeated emotional pursuit. One shows maturity. The other shows dependency. And dependency, no matter how sincere, reduces perceived value in the eyes of the one who withdrew. Human psychology, whether people admit it or not, is sensitive to emotional leverage. The one who appears less emotionally desperate holds more relational power. This is not about manipulation. It is about emotional stability. When you show that your emotional state collapses without their presence, you place your inner balance in their hands. That is too much power to give any individual. Chasing also creates a hidden contract in your mind. You start believing that if you just say the right words, show enough loyalty, prove enough patience, they will come back and appreciate you. But relationships are not won through endurance tests. They are built through mutual willingness. Effort cannot manufacture desire where desire has cooled. There is also a deeper cost. Chasing delays your healing. Every new attempt reopens the emotional loop. Every unanswered message resets hope and disappointment again. You stay mentally stuck in a doorway that no one is standing in anymore. Progress requires emotional closure, and closure rarely comes from the person who left. It comes from the discipline you build within yourself. Strength in this moment looks quiet. It looks like restraint. It looks like choosing not to send the third message, not to write the emotional paragraph, not to demand explanation from someone who already explained through behavior. Silence met with dignity is not weakness, it is boundary enforcement without drama. This does not mean you become cold or bitter. It means you become centered. You accept what happened without collapsing your standards. You allow people to choose their distance, and you choose your response. That response defines your character more than their disappearance defines your worth. The truth is simple and hard. If someone can stay away for months, they must earn their way back, not through your chasing, but through their initiative. Re-entry should require effort from the one who exited. Hold your ground, protect your value, and let dignity speak louder than pursuit. There is a truth most people never say out loud, but it quietly shapes how reconnection happens after long absence. If she ever comes back after months of silence, it will not be because you waited faithfully in the same emotional position. It will not be because you kept your life on pause. It will be because she senses or sees that you became stronger, more grounded, more focused, more self-directed. Attraction does not revive through waiting alone. It revives through visible and felt transformation. Many people confuse loyalty with stillness. They believe holding the same emotional posture proves depth of feeling. But from the outside, emotional stillness looks like stagnation. When someone leaves and later looks back, they are not drawn to frozen devotion, they are drawn to evolved presence. Growth creates gravity, progress creates curiosity, strength creates renewed respect. Think about it clearly. When someone steps away, they expect one of two outcomes. Either you will chase and remain emotionally dependent, or you will detach and rebuild. If you chase, the story is predictable. There is no mystery, no shift, no new dimension. But if you rebuild, something changes in the psychological equation. Now there is uncertainty, now there is contrast. Now there is evidence that your identity is not controlled by their presence or absence. The unspoken truth is that people are more intrigued by who you are becoming than by how long you waited. Waiting is passive, becoming is active. Waiting keeps your eyes on the door. Becoming builds a new house. This is why the most powerful response to disappearance is not silence alone. It is self-development. Sharpen your discipline, improve your physical health, upgrade your skills, expand your goals, strengthen your emotional control. When your daily habits change, your confidence changes. When your confidence changes, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, how people experience you changes. If she ever returns, she will not say, "I came back because you were available." She will feel, even if she cannot articulate it, you feel different now, different in posture, different in tone, different in boundaries, different in self-respect. That difference is what reopens attention, not stored patience. Also understand this transformation is not a performance for her, it is protection for you, because whether she returns or not becomes less important when you level up your life. Your standards rise, your options expand, your emotional dependency shrinks. You are no longer waiting to be chosen, you are choosing your direction. There is another layer to this truth. When someone comes back to a person who did not grow, the old dynamic quickly repeats. Same patterns, same imbalance, same outcome. But when they return to someone who evolved, the dynamic cannot repeat in the same way. Growth forces new terms of interaction, boundaries become clearer, respect becomes required, access is no longer automatic. Do not misunderstand, this is not about revenge success or proving someone wrong. That mindset is still emotionally tied to them. This is about independent elevation. You grow because growth is your responsibility, not because return is your reward. And if she never comes back, you still win because you did not waste the absence, you used it. Become so steady, so disciplined, and so forward, moving that anyone who looks back at you sees progress, not pause.